when you go into business, don't go into business thinking about so much getting the money from your community. Just think about the product and putting the most value into it, and then figure out who gets the most value from that and go find them.
Yeah, I'm Cameron McDowell. I own CBC Holdings. I work as an independent direct hire recruiter based in Pittsburgh. I've been up for 6 years now. A lot of my clientele is based in the Pittsburgh area. I work in just about any industry. And I also work with Plugged In BC, which is a nonprofit, and we work with the Main Streets programs in Beaver County.
My name is Seth Whitted, owner of Whitted Media Content House, director of BANC. And what we do here is we create a space where creatives, thought leaders, people, authors might need to create messages. It's a space. Somebody's used it for over the weekend for an album release party, photo shoots, creatives. It can be their place to bring their clientele. Whatever. It also houses our nonprofit work where we bridge the gap between faith, mental health, and business to go after community barriers. Carson here, yeah, you come join us. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
I'm Carson Douglas, and I'm a barber and a shop owner.
Okay.
Nice to meet you. I'm Ondrea Burton. I am the founder and CEO of an organization called Always You, where we support students transitioning from high school into adulthood, and our niche is those students that have a developmental disability.
It's not on.
It's not on?
For sure.
Oh, it's not.
That's
Oh, it's okay. Okay. Shut up. Thanks. I'm like, I'm a little off.
I'm serious. Court ain't playing with nothing.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name. Oh. Oh, we got to address it. Thank you. I'm Ikeya Sade, and I'm a connection and mindset coach. I work for a company called NAMI, the National Alliance for Mental Illness, which is the largest nonprofit mental health agency in the U.S. But I also have my own organization called Win Within, really specializing in integrating, you said faith, but scripture, science, and storytelling to help us live an abundant life. Yeah.
I know, I was just... my name is Zabriawn Smith. I am a business owner and I run a nonprofit called Housing Opportunities.
That's it? I feel like you got a lot more going on. Mm-hmm. Okay, so today's conversation, it could pretty much go anywhere, but what I would like to talk about is a number of things. Being capital ready for those of you who might have either gone after funding, or trying to go after funding, just trying to bridge that gap, have that conversation. I would also like to talk about capacity building, just what it takes mentally and emotionally to reach that place to handle high-level funds, large amounts of staff. So it's good that you're at the table.
Our boy got a pivot, don't he? Okay, all right.
Oh yeah, we can flow. So I guess for those of you who might have, I guess let's start with vision, because I feel like when going after funding, people care about vision. For each of you, for your business, when did you realize, or have you realized, when did you get away from hustle? What is the vision? And I guess what separates you from others? Anybody can take it.
I feel that I am finally shifting from the hustle, the 3 o'clock in the morning wake ups, and just working until 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, and then just repeating that cycle day in and day out. I finally feel that we are moving past that. And that feels tremendous because now we have received a little funding, and now we can bring in more people to help support some of those things that I was up at 3 o'clock in the morning doing. And that feels great. And then when you see that you can bring in more people, the vision shifts from what you were able to do in your own capacity to, wow, now I have people that can do this and I don't have to focus on that. And it's almost explosive in terms of the growth that you can see because you're not doing all of the things. and there's other people around you in their area of expertise that bring that expertise to what you're already building. And it's just like that shift literally happens in a moment. And I feel like that's where I'm at. Yeah.
Zabriawn, I know you're now at the point where I would love to stay on this topic of employee staff capacity building. Do you have any advice on this transition? Because I feel like you're in that transition right now. You've hired a number of people. Any advice that you might have for Ondrea on this step?
Hire wisely.
What does that mean? What does hire wisely actually mean?
Well, I mean, it seems like you kind of have a clear understanding of where you are now, right? Now it's no longer a matter of factoring in like what you can do. You're factoring in other people, and with other people, you have to take into account personalities, tendencies. So I definitely would say that I'm kind of in that space too. What's helpful for that is, I guess, still, I guess trying to arrive at or maintain what your original mission was and figuring out how to incorporate them into that rather than trying to reshape the whole thing. I guess by that I say for me, I was looking to grow the organization, but grow it in a very intentional way where we're giving opportunities while we're growing. So we're constantly trying to figure out this middle space between, are we providing an opportunity for an individual to grow in a way that's meaningful to the entire mission, or are we holding ourselves back by picking up someone who doesn't necessarily have all of the capacity? Because we're just in a different labor. Should I?
No, that's good.
We're just in a different space where, and Cam can definitely speak to this. Like, there's just a large gap between the skills that are needed for these jobs and who's available and looking for them. So I feel like as you get into that space of employing people, you're now responsible for kind of finding creative ways to make up for that gap, you know, and especially because, you know, with us being, I guess having a desire to have an impact, a social impact, not just, you know, making dollars from the business. We should take on the responsibility of making sure that we are finding people in a way that gives them a step upwards and allows them to actually succeed in the space, whatever that means for you all, right? You know, it's going to be dependent on who's available and everything like that. So I hope there was something in there.
Yes. Thank you.
Carson, in your business, how many barbers do you have?
I got 3 currently. I'm hiring 2 at the end of the month.
So you're going. What would be a full house?
8 will be full.
Okay.
I'm adding 2 more chairs too.
Talk to me about that process. Did you say I'm only going to start with 2, and why? Or did
I
you
just have 2 chairs available right now.
Oh, 2 chairs available.
Well, yeah, there's 3 plus me and then 2 others coming.
Okay. Talk to me about that process of bringing in other barbers. Like, what steps do you take to make sure that, you know, this culture, everybody's on point?
Yeah, I'm not perfect at it. I'm pretty new at like the business thing, but there's been a couple people that I hired and let go just because they didn't either fit the vision or the like structure that I was having. But at my shop, it's pretty free structure, but I mainly look at like, I go out to lunch with them and have like a demo cut, see how they cut and like what kind of person they are. But I just kind of see if they are a good person, will mesh with the rest of the group. If they won't, then they'll just like ruin the whole group.
Do you mind sharing what made you let them go? You don't
Sometimes it's like financial. Like I don't pocket watch, but like I can see like if they're going in an upward trend or a downward trend of like retaining clients, or if they could even give a good haircut or a great experience. You really don't have to give a good haircut. You just have to give a great experience from when they walk in the door to when they leave, and you'll get better at cutting hair. So if you have like those good intentions, you treat people well. a lot of people can get a barber.
Now, letting people go is a part of the job.
Yeah.
What? And I'm gonna follow. I'm gonna come over to you with this question as well. What did you have? How was it handling that, having to let people go? Like, did you wrestle with that?
Uncomfortable conversation, but they kind of just like weed themselves out.
Okay.
Mainly. They could tell it's not working. I could tell. I'd be like, hey, I don't think we should do this anymore. And that it always ended good. I mean, I don't really burn bridges like that. So.
Okay. What
You're asking about like the experience of like letting people go?
just having to, sometimes things don't work out, and I've been in a lot of places where people have kept bad apples around, whether they weren't good at having that conflict, or maybe it was expensive. Like, I've worked jobs where like we can't let them go, we have to pay them unemployment. But I guess I'm mainly talking about that conflict piece.
That's the hard conversation.
Yeah, the hard conversation is hard. I mean, before getting into entrepreneurship, I ran a call center that was based here in Beaver Falls. The first leadership job that I have, the first task they gave me within 2 weeks of having the job was, you got to let 10 people go today, with no prep for that. It was like, this is like part of your like corporate growth. Like, you got to let 10 people go today. These are people I started the job with before my promotions that I knew outside of work. Like,
These were friends.
Friends, yeah. And I had to pick from, I think it was like 20 to 25 people, 10 people who were like low on the totem pole and like go. Yeah, it was like the hardest. I cried when I went up. I'll never forget that. I remember crying when I went, because I was like, that was the hardest thing I think I've ever done in my life at the time. Like, that it's to have those conversations. And I remember like after the fact, my vice president brought me into the office and he was like, this was part of like training for you. Like, I want you to understand how this feels, so as you keep progressing in this role, there are parts, the aspects of this that you got to take like your feelings out of. Like, that was the hard lesson. Yeah.
Yeah, over I'd say about maybe a year and a half ago, one of the things that I had to deal with within myself was over managing emotions. And I've worked through that and have created some strategies, but I would love to hear from your perspective.
Yeah.
For people who manage other people's emotions, step in when things aren't going well, because that's just who they are. They might have been the oldest child who always had to step in, and they're exhausted.
Yes.
What advice do you give to that person for having that conflict, being okay with, and any of you can answer this question, but I would love to hear from your perspective.
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked me about that, because that's really where a lot of my work lands, is with high functioning, high capacity, high performing, high achieving individuals, because I know about that personally. And so I first want to say, to go back to one of the questions that you originally asked was about what sets me apart, or what sets my work apart. It would definitely be that systems is something that I really heavily value, because systems, my book, I talk about this, but like life runs on systems. So there's the ecosystem, there's the reproductive system, right? Everything has predictable laws and patterns. But the system that we operate on is our belief system, right? And so once we learn how to understand the system of our beliefs, or how we're wired, we can then start dealing with some of those things that we personally struggle with. And so for what you're mentioning is the overfunctioning person, whose system has been built around achievement, around performance. And like you said, sometimes that comes up in just like early achievement, early success. So if you found success in kindergarten, and like everybody's like, you're so good at whether it's basketball or football, or maybe drawing or poetry, whatever the case is, and a person can find early success and then find identity tied to that. So now life becomes sort of a stage, because we've learned that achievement is what gains approval, and we've learned that our value is attached to our work. And that just comes naturally because that's where we found, accolades. But it's not true. It's just kind of how we were wired early on. So a person who is like that first needs to understand you're not broken. It's just been how you might have been wired in growing up. And maybe, like you say, you've been an only child or an older sibling where you just stepped in and you fixed things. And then now that translates to work where you're always trying to fix things and fix people and fix relationships and right. But I say all that because what sets me apart in this season of my life is rest. So I teach people how to rest again, how to return to rest, and how to understand that life still moves without
so everybody's
you.
stirring at the table. Everybody, you're in everybody's business.
Right. Because we all have been there. Like, you know, as a coach, not most, every single person that I've coached has been tired, exhausted, looking for a safe place to just release. And that's when I knew that, you know, working with athletes, working with entrepreneurs, working with first responders, frontliners, I realized that our high capacity people need to realize, like, you don't have to always fix it. You actually have to reprogram yourself to let somebody show up for you. Mm-hmm. You have to reprogram yourself, even if you can handle it, even if you have the ability to handle it. Decide, I'm not going to handle this today. Because I have to unlearn that my worth is tied to my performance. And that takes work.
Yeah.
So I say that because that will be the first thing I say is that, yeah, when you hire someone, it's not going to be perfect. You know, and I love that you said you don't do it perfect, but if you have a system in place, so the way that we take the pressure off ourselves is say, okay, we're going to give it 30 days. We're going to do a 30-day mark. This is temporary, so no promises up front. I had to learn that too, because, you know, we want to go and we meet somebody, we love it. It's like, okay, we locked in. Nope. So we put a system in place where it's like, okay, we're going to do 30 days, see how it works. We'll come back, have another dinner meeting and see if it's a good fit, right? So if we begin to build those markers, we can take some of that pressure off even with capacity building. But the last thing I'll say is when it comes to capacity building, I would highly recommend, my expertise is teaching people how to build capacity through rest. Because rest is not just, it does not interrupt your work. It actually fuels your work. It reinvigorates your work. And scientifically, rest is where we repair. So the rested state is the most productive way to repair mentally, emotionally, and physically. If you're sick, what does your doctor say?
What doctor?
What doctor? You got to go to the doctor.
I'm about to say, I don't know. It's been
That's another thing. You gotta go to the doctor. But if you're, or your wife, or your,
You know, to make you get vaccines to go to college.
I'm the doctor. What?
but you know, rest is the thing, right? And do you know our bodies heal 30% faster while we're sleeping than when we're moving? So sometimes we think, oh, I just got to keep grinding, and we can't see rest as a reward. You want to go to faith. Okay, this is my pool of excitement because biblically, there's 10 things that God left us with. 10 things. Okay, I don't know if you know, there's the 10 commandments. If anybody who may be watching this is not familiar, but there's the 10 commandments. And there's like, thou shalt not this, thou shalt not that. But do you know one of those 10 commandments is to keep the Sabbath holy? That means to rest. That means to interrupt all your work and schedule it. No matter what's undone, stop and take 24 hours to refresh yourself. Why? Because God knew we don't need to be taught how to work. He didn't put that in the commandments. He put rest in the commandments. And here's the thing about rest. If you don't schedule it, when will you find time? Because there's always something to do, right? Mm-hmm. And if we don't have something to do, we use that time to do something that we say, oh, I should have been doing this. Let me use the time that I don't have something to do something else, so we won't ever rest. And so God knows that rest is not just something for your mind. It is something to help you mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually.
It's funny. It's funny because me and my wife had an argument this morning. And I love getting personal, by the way. I'm an open book. Very
every time.
But the conversation was basically like you're always on your phone, and obviously we talked. I was like, well, I'm reading, I'm doing this, and I took a few minutes and I said, I was honest with her. I said, you know what? I feel restless. Like, you might think I'm scrolling, but I'm actually reading books, doing everything. Any moment where I feel like there's like some quietness. It's like, what am I supposed to be doing? What am I supposed to be doing? Because I feel like my entire life, my worth and my value has been tied to what I'm providing or executing.
Yes.
And so your message hits. I know I need to rest more.
Are there times?
Grand moments? Sure.
Are there times where we are not supposed to rest? Can we talk about those?
Yes.
Like, what does that look like? And can one stay there forever?
Mm-hmm. Is that a question for me? Because I can talk.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because yes, that we can't stay there forever, but there is definitely a place and a space for productivity. And this is the balance. The first commandment that God gave us was to be fruitful and multiply, which speaks of productivity, multiplication, and impact. So we're not supposed to be still. The idea of restedness, though, is that it's not just physical, it's mental. Because there are times where you can't just stop. I mean, you got things to do, you have life to live, but to think that if I don't do this, then it's not going to get done. That's where the restlessness comes in. And so it's part mind, part body. And that's where knowing where you stand and how to align properly really depends on the person and the season. So I can say yes, grinding, hustling, we all go through those seasons and they were necessary. But it's the posture of rest that is most important. And then realizing that you also need to find time to rest in the midst of your grind and in the midst of your hustle.
I love this, and I want to expand upon this by
A little
A
bit.
little bit.
I want to expand upon this by going back to vision, because I want to talk about being capital ready, being ready for funding, because we have nonprofits here, we have businesses here as well. Back to vision. What brought each of you to your vision? Because one of the issues that I see in our community, and I'm speaking specifically about the Black community or poor community, is when people go to start businesses, it's normally hustles that don't have systems. They're not thinking about systems, or they're choosing what I call quick grab businesses where there's not much thought or vision into it. What led you to your vision for your business? And what advice do you have for others? And how can they step outside of themselves and think? Because I'm speaking specifically about your two I don't know much about everyone else's, but I feel like both of you are doing some groundbreaking things in terms of like shifting culture. What brought you guys to your vision? And what advice do you have? And everybody can answer, but I specifically want to hear from you two.
Well, my daughter brought me to my vision. So I have a young adult daughter that has a developmental disability. And as she was transitioning out of high school, the services and supports that I envisioned for her did not exist. And so we went about creating those programs. And so we are based out of the Community College of Beaver County. And we provide young adults that otherwise may not have ever had a college experience with a lived true college experience. They're fully integrated into the college community, fully accepted by students and faculty. And it is pretty amazing. Thank you. And so that's the vision, that's the reason, that's the why. And what is the other part of your question?
I guess what advice? And you know what? We'll put this together as advice. So what I'm hearing here, there was a gap. Something
There
was
was
missing.
definitely a gap.
So step one, look
But
for a
something
gap.
that you said to me, and it still resonates, and I appreciate you saying this to me, is that, Ondrea, when you show up, regardless of what it is that you're doing, it's always about always you, which is the name of our company. And I appreciated you saying that, because you said also at the time that so many people, have this business, but they're jumping over here and they're doing something else. And, but there's never a time that I'm having a conversation or you're having a conversation with me that my focus is not 100% about always you and where we can, what opportunities we can take to make Always You better or make things scale or more effective or more productive. And so I do appreciate that you acknowledge that about me, because then obviously I was doing it, but it also made me more laser focused on continuing to stay in that space of this is where we are. This is our 100% focus. Now that also is a little hard for me because so many people don't see me in this space. My background is government. That's how people see me. So that's the other part to some of these things, is where people see you or how people perceive you to be, or what,
They want to keep you there.
they want to keep you in that box. And so they don't. So it's just like, okay, Ondrea, I know you're doing, that company, your organization, but what else you doing? Like, I cannot tell you how many times people ask me that. And it's just like, you have no idea. When I say I'm up at 3:00 in the morning and I go at least 15, 18 hours a day, there's no time for anything else. So again, it's people that don't necessarily understand what is required to build the systems, what is required to build the partnerships, to build the trust, to build the whole infrastructure of what it takes to really run a true substantial, self-sustaining company and organization. It's just not something that you just pick up and do. It takes hard work, dedication, and, true dedicated focus on making that come true.
All right. So before everybody else answers, I'm hearing step 1, finding a gap. Step 2 is whatever you choose, it needs to be something that you're going to give laser focus to. Okay. Anybody else want to chime in? Well, let me say for you, you took over housing opportunities. My bad. I'll be guiding the conversation. You took over housing opportunities, and what you guys were just credit repair, or you guys were giving guidance for. Go ahead. You stepped in.
That's a good question.
Now you stepped in and you turned it into this whole ecosystem, which I don't even know if you want to fully break it down yet. Talk to us about how that vision transpired, and then give the advice.
Seth. No, I'm quick. Where to start? That's a lot. I think when you talk about vision, for me, taking over yes, ma'am.
What'd you say? Go ahead.
Sorry. When you talk about vision, for an organization, there's probably some merging that has to happen. So, I had a certain belief of how, an organization like that should run. And then when I took the job, there was the reality of how it was running and kind of what the current vision was. And there was a bit of tension and board of directors and meetings and people sending emails with too many words. And you kind of find within that space, how do we, I guess it's kind of like rebranding. So as far as my vision, I think, I didn't have a great understanding of real estate, early on, but, like my house was foreclosed on when I was a kid. It was something that I remember because I didn't really understand the term. And, as I went on in life, I started to learn about, like economics and finance and how much money is tied into the housing market. And like you watch like the movies about the housing crash and things like that. So my vision was always, we have to find a way to better appreciate the assets that we have in this community. So I did a year. I didn't do a year. I got fired. I got fired twice from this program, but it's called Public Allies. It's like a internship thing. They be firing people. That's not important right now, though. What we're talking about. So, it's like an internship program. So I went to one organization to intern, and I got fired from that organization. Okay. And then they was like, "We'll go to this one." And I was like, "All right, I'm gonna believe in y'all." And then they went there, and they fired me too.
You're fireable, though.
Fireable.
You're fireable. You got to be the top dog, so you're fireable.
I don't think that that's true at all. I think I'm a very good not top dog. So I push back on that. I reject your notion, sir. Sorry. I guess what I was saying was at Public Allies. Well, now I done lost my point.
Well, I was asking about vision. How did you arrive to the ecosystem that you built from every program that now ties together?
Speaker.
You're doing fine.
Yes.
How did I? Oh, so I had an understanding of real estate and its value when I was at Public Allies. I learned about the concept of asset-based community development, right? So just like recognizing, very similar to identifying gaps, just like recognizing what things are here. I'm from Aliquippa, so one of the first things I did was kind of look around and recognize that these buildings and these houses, they all have value, but we're not putting them into any type of productive use, right? They're not on the tax roll, and they are not on, and people aren't living in them. They're just kind of sitting around. So I took a couple of different stabs at trying to get large buildings and learned that doesn't work and it kind of annoys people. So I started working on just like single family houses and duplexes and fixing those up. And I was a notary at the time, which in the hood makes you a lawyer by law. So there was a lot of documenting and signing paperwork and just kind of watching how, guys were like wholesaling real estate and just trying to get an understanding of that. So when I took the job at Housing Opportunities, I guess I tried to take all of that understanding of being resourceful and recognizing underlying value and trying to create programming out of that. And I think that's where the vision was birthed. We were already doing housing counseling, but trying to tie that counseling to tangible outcomes. So people buying homes, people having repairs done to their homes, and people being able to stay in their homes because we advocate against foreclosure and foreclosure courts. So being able to, secure assets and with the understanding that those are what can create like the underlying value for people. I guess that kind of became the vision. I don't know. Did I answer the question?
Yeah, I feel like it's still on the same lines of filling the gap.
Yes.
And you filled multiple gaps. From the education piece to being able to provide housing, and the workforce development side. Cam, talk to me about how you started your business. How did you arrive at your vision?
The last year I was at the call center I was at, I was actually on track to be promoted to a VP.
We just had to fire 50 more people. Every time we fire somebody,
I spent 5 years there, man. I just felt like I was carrying a lot on my back, and I think it was mostly because I was a young black man that was smart with no degree. So I was able to do everything they asked me, but they didn't have to pay me enough for it. And I started to learn maybe about 3 or 4 years into it, like, oh shit, like I think at a director level I'm supposed to be paid more than this, and I started doing some research. And then the HR person that we had went on maternity leave. And I had to take over like the whole recruiting aspect of her job while she was out. So I learned about recruiting just in a nutshell. I mean, I've always ended up in a leadership position at any job I've been in. So I've always like hired and fired. But that year in that, I liked it. Like I started gravitating towards it. I actually started making like different things for it, different documents for it, different processes for it. And I was like, I really like this part of the job. I've been talking about opening something up. So I took a leave of absence for like 2 weeks. I went on vacation. I never took time off. So everybody was just like, oh my God, Cameron's gone. I took 2 weeks off, made an LLC. I found a client in Aliquippa, a manufacturing place that I found on, I think I found them on Craigslist. It was the oddest client I think I've ever gotten. On Craigslist, I didn't have a car at the time. My dad drove me to go tour the site, the facility, right? And after touring the facility, there was guys like, yeah, we can, I got one job that I'm filling right now. It's the director of manufacturing or director of packaging. I was like, you're going to give it to me? He was like, yeah. I was like, oh, okay. Just give me an agreement. I had no idea what an agreement was at the time. I was learning as I went. But I had the LLC, so I went back. I found a platform, made an agreement, sent it over. He signed it, and I found somebody for him off Indeed. I taught myself Indeed, taught myself like sourcing, taught myself everything about recruiting in a matter of 2 weeks, just the basis that I need. And he hired him, and I got paid. Obviously, I lowballed way more than industry standard was at the time. Like, you have to get a client. Yeah. That's why I say yes. I realized that after the fact. I made $6,500 off just hiring one person. I was like, oh my God, like, I'm quitting.
I'm never working again.
I'm quitting. So I actually, it's crazy because I went back to work and the executive VP knew what I was doing. And he was like, well, are you leaving? I actually emailed my whole team and I was like, hey, in a few weeks, I'm probably going to be out of here. They were having my emails like monitored. So I actually I had to take a involuntary resignation and leave the day that I came back. Crazy, very, very crazy. So yeah, for 2 years after that, it was a lot of hustle. Like I learned everything I possibly could about recruiting in a matter of 2 years. I didn't have another job. I just went all in, all in.
Do you think that like your main driver was the interest in the industry, or was it that you recognized that there was a need for that?
Yeah, so I think it started as my interest in the industry, but as I kept going, I realized that there wasn't really there are no other black recruiting firms. There's very limited black recruiting firms in the U.S. alone. Mm-hmm. Two, there's none in Pittsburgh. None in Western PA at all. Wow. I didn't realize that until 2 years after in it. And I was like, oh, I'm like rebranding this whole thing into like, this is what it's about. Like, I'm an independent black recruiter that can help any company more than these other people can. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And became very successful with that, right? So I felt like what I put out there, a lot of people gravitated towards in regards to getting new clientele and more clientele, and more so not having to be the extremely polished master's degree, HR certification. Mm-hmm. Coming from a big corporate operation, that person that you can do this, you know what I mean, in this aspect. And I can relate to the person that's looking for a barber job, you know, if he's hiring barbers, or to the person that's looking for a CEO job, you know what I mean? That was something that I think I filled a gap for. And in the industry, I'm like very well respected now. It took me a few years to realize like that respect was coming. I was like, nah, not me. There's no way. But now I own it. Like, yeah, like I see this now because I've been getting told that for a while. So, yeah.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm hearing two things in that. I'm hearing know your value. And number two, I guess this is more of a question. Do you recommend people go work in the industry that they want to start a business in?
I think you should.
Because it sounds like that provided a lot of value. Yeah, you were able to see the gaps. Yeah. You were able to also build a reputation, get some experience.
I think you should. In the recruiting industry, they always say, like, before you actually go out on your own, you should probably work at a recruiting agency first for a year or two just to kind of get, like, the idea of what it's all about. I didn't do that. I think there's a lot of, when I say hustle, I mean, everything was self-taught. You know what I mean? Everything was self-taught. That took away from, even if I would have stayed in that position with that company and learned some more about the role, or even just left there and went to a recruiting agency for a year or two and kind of learned the basics, I would have catapulted a lot sooner than later, just with the basics. It was just so much self-teachings and readings and written articles and like self-taught all the way that I could have took a lot of that time away.
Carson, tell us how you arrived at your vision. First off, Cam talks highly about you. I'm glad I finally got to meet you. Yeah, he said he couldn't make it. Well, he thought it was a Google Meet. But how did you arrive at your vision? And I guess what advice you got?
I arrived at, my vision is I want to create 6-figure opportunities for like barbers in the area. Have like one big barber shop and then have what's it called, franchise that, and then I'm gonna do barber school in the area because we don't have one.
Mm-hmm.
But I created my own 6-figure opportunity, and I'm like, oh, I want to do this for other people. But I've been at like about 5, maybe 6 shops in the area. I've been cutting for 7 years. So, but every shop had like a real big glaring flaw, and it kind of sucks. So I'm taking all my experience from that.
What was the flaw?
There we go.
Biggest flaw was probably like walk-in flow mainly, or like people coming into the business. Like you had to like do a lot on your own, or they just kind of went off like I've been here 10 years, so people are just going to show up, that kind of thing.
So like giving opportunity, like you're giving more opportunity than other barbershops.
Yeah. Like my vision is I want 10 walk-ins a day.
Okay.
If someone can do 10 walk-ins a day, they're making good money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you break down? You call it 6-figure opportunity for every barber.
Yeah.
Can you break down a little bit more about that?
I think the standard in my industry should be you should be able to make $100,000 a year.
Okay.
Just cutting hair from behind a chair. That's not investments. No investments of any sort. Just cutting hair.
Okay.
And yeah, I was able to do that within I was 3 years serious in the barbershop. I've been cutting since high school, so but 3 years in the shop, and I was able to like achieve something similar to that. So
Okay.
How much time do you spend, I guess, like, when you talk about creating those opportunities? So some of that is going to come from financial discipline, right? I bet you got good habits. How much of that conversation do you have with those barbers that you're hiring on?
well, I tell them like everything I've done, and obviously everyone likes it, but then they tell me that, and then a couple weeks go by, and they're like really lazy. They don't do this. They're not really financially disciplined. But the same principles I had when I was only making like $1,500 a month, I have the same principles now that what I make. So everything's really stayed the same. But I'm a pretty disciplined person, so it was easier for me. But I'm trying to teach people who aren't disciplined how to do it.
You sound like somebody, once you find a system, you lock in and you stick to that system no matter the pressure of other things, which comes back to that advice. What I noticed about Ondrea was how laser focused she was. Even if some other things pop up, it's like, well, yeah, good for you. I'm here in this system.
I'm new to like leadership and like recruiting people, finding people. So because everything's always been within me, it's been easy because I'm my own boss.
Yeah.
Hard on myself. But then people tell me, yeah, I want to make $100,000. I want to buy houses like you. I'm like, okay, you just do this, and then they don't do a tenth of what I do. I'm like, yeah, I mean, if you're happy just making $100, sure.
Do they be sleeping,
Yeah.
resting?
Showing up late, showing up late, even early, all kind of stuff. But that's my vision.
Lazy and resting is not the same.
I definitely need rest.
Slippery slope. It's a slippery slope.
How far away is it, though?
I think life's in like seasons.
It
It
is.
is. It is.
It's seasons of knowing where you are.
Because I sacrificed a lot. Like I think for the first 2 years of me going hard, I was working like 6 days a week.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you start out any business, you're putting in. You don't even realize you're doing
You gotta
it.
invest.
Because it's a passion.
Yeah, you don't even
Absolutely.
realize you're doing it. Once you go all in, like you're doing it. It's just nonstop. I remember like you said, like 5 o'clock wake ups to like 10, 11 o'clock trying to go to sleep at least, and then still popping up in the middle of the night, like, oh, I got this I could do, or I got this I could do, like I can change this. Like, that's a lot.
Yes.
Can you tell me how you arrived here at the work that you do? We've
Yes.
heard your vision. We understand how you separate yourself. But how did you get here?
Okay, it is a loaded answer. So it's 2 parts. So similar, I had a very grind, hustle, I'll sleep when I die kind of season. That's why I know. Like I know the hustle mentality. You said that's why.
So now we're talking.
You're so funny. And so back in 2016, I was living in Philly at the time, and my full-time job was director of housing for the Art Institute of Philadelphia. But I had just started my business, which was a clothing line then, which I also jewelry. She and this is my jewelry. This is also my jewelry. So I still do my thing. But I started my clothing business, and I, like all of you said, it was something that I just wanted to do as a passion. I wanted to put some words on a shirt. Back then that's when like printing and heat press was really coming out. So I just wanted to put some encouraging words on a shirt about being brave. But then it just took off. Like I got a person word on BT. Then I ended up getting contracts with artists. And next thing you know, I'm working my 9 to 5, then I'm working 6 to 3 in the morning, printing shirts for artists, right? And I loved it. And so I did that until about 2018. The Art Institutes closed down. Then I went full-time Brave, opened up a store at the Philadelphia Mills Mall. And then COVID hit, okay? Long story short, I ended up back in Pittsburgh in 2021. But that's when I really didn't know what to do with my life. I was stuck. Hence, the book she's talking about is called Get Unstuck Now. And it really is a memoir and manual from my season of knowing, like, I thought I had it figured out. You know, I had the grind, I had the hustle, I had the vision, I was successful. And then everything just stopped and I had to pivot. I know God did that. Like, I didn't have any plans with the pivot. But long story short, when I got here, I didn't know what to do. So I started volunteering and started a life skills mentorship program at Perry High School. Y'all familiar with Perry in Pittsburgh? And interestingly enough, during those classes, 5 of my classes had asked if they could, 4 out of 5 of the classes picked mental health as a topic that they wanted to learn about, which was really unusual. This was in 2022. But it aligned with, I'm not sure if you know, but the Surgeon General did the United States report and had declared that 2022 showed that we were in a mental health pandemic. It was the second pandemic, which was mental health, youth mental health. So this was like raw data in front of me. I didn't even know that this was a report that was done about the U.S. that kids are really struggling with their mental health. I didn't find that out until 2023. But in 2022, they're saying, Miss Ikeya, can you teach us about mental health? So I reached out to NAMI, which is the company I work for, and called them, asked them to come out. And it's a very funny story, but I'll spare you all the details right now. But 4 months later, I was asked to work for NAMI. I was offered a position because of the work that I was doing with youth. So I said I had no idea that I was going to go into mental health. It was not a plan. It was not a goal. But it just fit because I wasn't doing a lot and the youth needed it. So that was 2023 where I started. So I'm 3 years in, and it's interesting because I needed my job for me more than I needed to teach it. You know, I had to learn what mental health was, what I was struggling with, how to overcome depression when I was going through that transition. And it was really a job that helped me to overcome. But I say all that to say I got into this work on accident, on purpose. It was an accident on purpose. And I'm able to do this so passionately because I know what it's like to struggle in my mental health. I'm also very privy to what it's like to feel restless and understanding the benefits of mental health. It makes me talk about it in these spaces. And that's why I know that there are people that is going to be here and say, you need to grind, you need to hustle. I'm not that person no more. That's not my role. My role in people's life is to say, go to him about the grind and hustle. Come to me when you're tired. I'm the one, that's the person that I know. That's my mantle. That's my assignment to help people find safety and rest again. And then value and identity apart from performance, because I did for so long. I found my worth attached to my productivity. And I know people are just stuck there, you know, and like you said, there's a chapter in my book that talks about the reputation prison, how so many of us stay in unfulfilling spaces. And I see this firsthand, all because of reputation. I had a guy who I coached who literally came to me. Unfortunately, he was a very kind man, loved the work he did, but his family life was failing tremendously. Missing days with his kids, missing time with his wife. And he knew he had to stop. He knew he had to stop, but he refused, all because he felt like he was going to fail his community. And he was tired and he's complaining and he's miserable and he's flipping out on his wife, flipping out on his kids, but he could not let go of the reputation. And so I like to give people language for that. And again, that's what I know this season looks like for me. This season is to talk about those things that a lot of us don't even have language for, so that's how I got into it. And then the more that I meet people, I'll just tell you one last story. I went to an award show just about like 3 or 4 weeks ago, sat next to this woman. And she was telling me all the things she does. And so the first thing I say is, how are you taking care of yourself? That's what I ask everybody. How are you taking care of you? How are you doing? Are you sleeping? Because I believe in sleep hygiene. How many hours you getting? What's life like for you? And she said she's not resting. She's tired. She had came to this award show to represent her organization. And then she was leaving that award show to go to another event. I said, sis, you don't need to be here. Go home. Go home. Everybody saw that she was here. Do you know that lady left in the middle of the workshop? She said, you know what? I need to leave. I'm tired. She said, I'm going to go take me a nap before this next event. I said, that's what you need to do. And so that's what I know I do. And I see this almost every day. Somebody externalizes this to me, And so that's why I do what I do.
So to kind of wrap up the advice that I hear, and I got one last question for everybody. Number one is to fill a gap. Number two is whatever you create, whatever system you lock into, stick to that one idea, stick to that system no matter what. If you can, be involved in that business that you are hoping to, whatever endeavor it is, if you try to find a job so you can learn as much as you can. And I feel like what I took from yours is whatever work you're doing, that could be a business. Whatever problems you're solving within you can be a business. Because you're the product. You know what I mean? And I think the last advice, which is actually a question, is around trust. People gotta trust you. You put them clippers up there. I drive all the way to Newcastle to get my hair cut. That's trust. You know what I mean? For those of you who have gone after funding, for those of you who have clients, those of you come from the government world, what is your advice on how to build trust? And for context, like when I went to go get for the funding for this building, I went on this year-long journey of building relationships with banks so that by the time I put the application in, that trust was there. Same thing with clients. I go to great lengths to build trust. What advice do you have, each of you, for building trust, whether it's for funding or whether it's for customers?
I stand by that. It's like my part of the biggest thing in my brand is building relationships with my clients. I don't think I'm a salesman. I'm not a salesman. I'm not good at sales. I can tell you what I can do and what I can't do. But the biggest thing is that each client, I want them to feel like we have a relationship. I got a client that texts me at 7 o'clock this morning that also calls me at 9 or 10 o'clock at night. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be that person where you're able to build a relationship and you trust me so much with what you're giving me that I'm your guy. You know what I mean? You're not gonna take these jobs to anybody else, and you would trust me with any job you got. Even if I hired the first salesperson for you, or if you need a CFO now 3 years later, like I trust Cameron to do it. I don't want to call anybody else because he's been the person to answer my call at 10 o'clock. He's been the person talking to me. He's the person asking how my kids are doing during Christmas. Like, you have to build a relationship before anything. I mean, I don't care what you do. Sell whatever you want to sell, but build a relationship for sure. Always. For any clientele.
Anyone else?
I think social proof and being confident in what you do.
Tell a little more about the social proof.
Well, like me, I post all my work on social media. I post like what I do. Kind of be more relatable to it. I post like my family, hobbies I do, and like people relate to it and they want to come and meet me in the shop.
Who's the nicest barber in Beaver County?
Huh? I don't know.
You were supposed to say me.
I let the people decide.
Yeah, I hear that. I feel it.
Right, who cares if you pay, right?
He said, I reached my honey. I'm cool.
Sir, that doesn't matter. Don't worry about that.
So, anybody else? How do you build trust? What advice?
Just operating with integrity. Say what you mean and mean what you say and do it. And again, building the relationships and trust comes, based on those things. And so, in our business, the families that work with us entrust me, and I say to them all the time, I thank them for their trust because they're trusting me with their most precious beings. These humans, these special humans that need that extra level of support. And so to be entrusted with the care of them is very, very important to me, and requires me to live in a life of integrity and, a life of dignity and a life of respect. And that's how I treat all of our participants, and that's how I treat our families. And so it all just comes back to integrity.
Yeah, I would say partly why I'm a connection and mindset coach is because I've learned in my own personal life how powerful relationships are to mindset, how much our mindset impacts our relationship, how much our relationships impact our mindset. And so I allow connection to be the basis to everything that I do. And I'm very intentional about connection. Similar to kind of what you said too, is one of the things that I say, even as a mental health educator, is that I live what I give and I give what I live. So doing the work is really important to me to embody and then to be the example of what I talk about. And so I'm very self-reflective to build authority in my work so that I can share it from a place of authenticity and also example. And that really has been a way that I found success for me, is that people trust because I am what I say I am and I am what I say to you. And then if I'm careful not to talk about things that I need to work out of myself. I'm very mindful of hypocrisy and not leading with that. So, yeah.
Want me to call your name?
Do I need to answer?
Yeah.
All right. What was the question?
Can I say one thing though?
Sure.
I think that's another thing too though that builds trust is humor. That's a part of like my own personal branding. But humor is a very good trust builder, and he has it.
He does.
But
Hey,
yeah, that's something that I think
He didn't
about.
even know that until today.
This episode.
That's a good thing.
So
Trust.
for
Trust.
How do you build trust?
I got a specific one for you. I have a specific one for you. As someone, just to put your business all out on the street, as someone who's currently landed a huge contract, it's public information. I've seen it on the internet.
I need to look it up.
On
Right?
this episode.
Tell us about it.
As an organization,
Start snitching.
what advice do you have for building that high level trust to be able to land that level of funding?
You know, Mike. No, I'm playing. So for real, Ondrea's answer is probably exactly what I would say. Be aggressively you. I think that I try my best to show my full personality so that everyone understands who they're dealing with. Like, just kind of early on, I'm going to do something weird just so you know that, like, this is kind of the tempo. This is it. We're establishing it now. So when something's like, that was kind of, oh, yeah, but I forgot he be doing that. That's the thing that he does. So, I try to disarm people with integrity, with being honest about who I am. And then I guess to add on to it, don't be afraid to, I guess, analyze yourself, right? So I think you were talking about like building trust with relationships. For me, I'm very one and done, like trying to reconsider it once you land on whatever side you land on. Still, I'm willing to be respectful, but just, we don't gotta talk, we don't gotta do any of that. And that's okay, because I think that there's this environment where everybody's supposed to be like best friends, and I'm not that friendly, and I don't have that type of social battery. I want to talk to, who I want to talk to, if there's a specific need for us to talk. I think we can do that without me knowing the name of your children. I'm sure they're lovely, and it's nothing personal, but I have so many other things that I need to pay attention to that sometimes it's just like, hey man, can you connect me to this person? Yes or no? No, thank you, cool. Yes, thank you, cool. And that's okay. So just being honest with yourself and how you want to move in these spaces, establishing that benchmark. That's right. So
When you go into business, don't go into business thinking about so much getting the money from your community. Just think about the product and putting the most value into it, and then figure out who gets the most value from that and go find them.